Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. Tammy, have you been wanting to get away this summer, but the cost of everything has you finding that you can't afford it? Well, don't worry about it. Let Stewie Staycation help you stay your ass at home, literally. We'll help you turn your backyard into a barely beach, the slide at the local park into the best damn free slip and slide water ride. So instead of going broke trying to get out of town, stay your ass at home and check out Stewie Staycations at www.stayyourassathome.com. So, Tim, what you think about Stewie? You gonna check out their staycations?
Yeah, I think I need to check out Stewie's Staycation at stayyourassathome.com. I'm down for that. Let's go.
Save you some money and so you get to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on this week's episode, we take a trip to the beach during Amazon's The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is adapted from Jenny Hans, yes, the author of To All the Boys I've Loved series, her Summer I Turned Pretty series. This is a modern day coming of age story about a girl and two guys and what could happen one perfect summer. During this magical summer, Belly Conklin discovers the highs and lows of first love and heartbreak and how complicated those things can really be as she navigates that tricky transition from childhood to young adulthood. So, Tammy, what did you think of The Summer I Turned Pretty? Was it a beautiful swan or an ugly duckling?
Neither. It took me a couple episodes to get into the show. But there were some scenes and some episodes that really caught my attention, made me stop everything I was doing to focus on it. So I think it was more hit than miss. And I guess we'll get more into details of exactly where the hits and misses were. But overall, it was cute. It was a cute teen show. It was cute.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, even though I picked it. It was just one of those things that kind of popped up somewhere, and I was like, oh, and looking at the July calendar, it's kind of sparse, and I'm like, yeah, And so it was something I really hadn't really known too much about. I must admit, as far as streamers go, Amazon is probably the one that I'm least likely to turn to for shows outside of Reacher and maybe The Boys or something like that. So I was surprised. I hadn't read the books. After watching it, it was kind of like a to all the boys things. I was really tempted to go and buy the books and or download them and read them, but then I decided against it. Kind of like a to all the boys thing. I kind of want to be surprised. And I also found this article after, and it was saying all the differences between the books and the series, and especially the first book, since this is based on the first book in the series. And all the differences were the things that I loved about the series, and those things were not in the books. And so I was like, yeah, if I read the books, I would probably end up hating it. So I decided against it. Like, one of the things I truly, truly loved, one of my favorite relationships was between the moms. I loved the moms. I loved their friendship. I loved that they had their own space and their own stories to tell that was apart from their children. I loved Susanna. I loved Deloro. I loved how they had this pure love, how they thought of each other's kids as their own kids. And so, and in the books, it was saying that we only got glimpses of them through Belly's point of view. So I was like, ugh. So I love that they had their own story in this. What did you like the moms?
Sorry, I just heard a noise in my apartment.
Someone breaking in?
Just pause real quick. My bad. Eddie, if I call you, you need to come get me. Yes, I agree. Back on topic. I definitely agree. I did like the connection with the moms. It felt very genuine. They could be mad at each other, they can argue with each other, they can go off on each other, but at the end of the day, you knew that they were in it for life. They were more dedicated to each other than they ever were to their husbands, which is what we find out later on in the series. So yeah, I definitely loved the connection of the moms and just how genuine and fulfilling it was to see.
Yeah, like they were the moms were ride or die, like, and they were hilarious. They were moms in the sense that, yeah, but I love that, like in a lot of teen shows and movies now, the parents are just there as like comic relief or to be the annoying ass parents who are all up in the kids' business. Like they don't serve, they don't serve, the only purpose they serve is to remind you that the kids are 16 or teenagers and they have to have parents around somewhere. But in this, like I said, I really really love the fact that they have their own story and their own thing going on. Like Laurel, she even kind of sort of got her groove back, after post divorce, and she's finding stuff to write about and just kind of stepping outside of herself and her comfort zone. So I truly truly loved that in this series, that they gave the moms something to do than just, we got to see them as individualized women, as even quote unquote sexual beings, because when women get to be a certain age, they tend to depict us as old shrews who aren't, I don't even know if I want to say human, but who aren't sexual. Like we either serve the purpose as a wife or a mother, but not as individualized human beings. So I truly love that. Um, and I love that that was a change that they made, even though I haven't read the series. And shout out to Jenny Han, who also co-produced and wrote the series, co-wrote the series too. So any adaptations that were made, they were made with her 100% approval. Um, so, um, who I liked Cleveland. Did you like Cleveland, the character, the author, the
Now
guy who?
I like the fact that he connected with Conrad. That he was very like, Conrad is, I want to say in the series 18 since he was starting college in the fall. So Conrad is 18 years old, and at that point, you sometimes, even teenagers being 18, you can still be treated as a kid. So I think one thing that Cleveland did that was really great is that he treated him as an adult, like, asking him, like, what's going on, like, hearing out his side rather than just telling him what to think and what to feel. So I think the connection, Cleveland for me served the purpose of presenting a different side of Conrad that I didn't see when he was with everybody else.
Yeah. He was also, believe it or not, he was also an original character to the series, to the TV series. He's not in the books, and so I thought, and so that was one of the things. Like as I was reading this more and more, some of the real, like I said, some of the things that I really loved about the show are not in the books. And the character of Cleveland, um, I I liked him more. I get it. He was that jump off for, I didn't see him as long term in game for Laurel. I saw him as like that summer jump off, that how you get your groove back side piece, that summer fling, and I was okay with that. But I really did love the connection between him and Conrad. He was that adult male figure that he needed because his relationship with his dad was so shitty. He was that one adult that he needed to just be able to go and talk to and be able to trust and be able to just kind of learn how to breathe again with and let out all of that shit that was bogging him down. So I really love that, that Conrad had that in Cleveland. So I did like the character of Cleveland from that aspect. Um, okay, so I guess we're gonna get into it now. The real meat of the story. Were you team Jelly or Cobelly?
What?
Team Jeremiah, Team Jelly, or Team?
Oh, Team Jeremiah through and through. I was not a fan of Conrad. I'm gonna put that out there right now. Definitely not a fan of his.
Hmm. Hmm. Why are you Team Jelly?
Um, I Conrad was an asshole, and I wasn't a fan of his from the jump. But I'm gonna give two different responses to why I was all about Belly and Jeremiah. One thing is Jeremiah is gorgeous. He was the best looking out of the three boys. Um, Now you would think it would just be the eyes because his eyes were gorgeous, but he had the body. He was total package. I also like the fact that he was sweet and he was nice and he was very very dedicated to Belly. He changed like how when he realized that he really wanted to get with her and he wanted to be with her. He like blocked out everybody else and his full focus was on her. He got jealous, which is, a typical teenage thing. Um, but at the same time, he gave her an opportunity to grow as well and to figure it out. It's not like he pushed himself on her. I thought it was um, a very honest journey towards them having that connection and being something. I think that with Conrad, it was more, oh, this is my first cut rush. This is my first love. And it's like she couldn't let it go. No matter what Conrad did, how he treated her, she was focused on this was my focus. When I said I was coming here for the summer, I said things were going to be different and me and Conrad was going to be something. And so she couldn't let that mindset go, even as every single sign. And granted, it's a teenage thing. She'll learn as she gets older. But even as every single sign told her the better choice, she could not let it go because of the little glimpses of what her fantasy always was and the little glimpses of her fantasy becoming reality. Made it that no matter what he did, no matter what he said, no matter how he treated her, she couldn't let it go. I think with Jeremiah, it was more genuine on the journey to them getting to that point. And so I was more in support of her and Jeremiah than I ever was of her and Conrad.
Hmm. See, I see the appeal of them both. And so I'm like, why choose? But that's a whole different genre. Um, but I don't know if I was completely sold on either one. Like I said, I see the appeal. Um, excuse me. And I have to agree. I thought that Jeremy, in some instances, I thought he was a better BFF, much better than her friend Taylor. I hated Taylor. Like I Taylor was like I had you realize she wasn't going anywhere. Like in the beginning, I hated Taylor, and then she kind of like grew on you like that fungus because you realize, okay, she's not going to go anywhere. But yeah. So I thought that he was better. He served better as her best friend. I think one of the things that made me go that made me that made me feel that way is because his interest seemed rushed. Like one minute he was all pushing her on, I like Cam Cameron. You guys make a cute couple. You should be with Cam Cameron. And then you never really saw the transition. Like you saw the potential of them as a couple because he was dedicated. Like he was so sweet with her. He was really protective of her. But then all of a sudden, it's when he sees her talking to his brother out on the docks, all of a sudden he just becomes jealous. And so it's like I never really saw that transition to him actually having those genuine feelings for her. Because there's this one line when he was talking to his brother, he's like, "Oh, it's just about winning for you." That's what it seemed like to me. They kind of made it seem like it was a competition. And granted, everything you said was true about how he stopped flirting with. Well, he was a natural flirt, but how he stopped hooking up with anything with lips once he realized that, hey, this is what I want. So I think they could have just done a little bit better of making his interest in her more obvious. Does that make sense?
Um, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, because I mean, and I'm not like I said, I get the appeal. Like he's great. Everything you said about him is true. He is gorgeous. I remember when I first saw him. He was like in the first season of Walker, and he played Stella. The he played Walker's daughter, Stella's love interest, and that kid was so cute. And I thought And I think I remember when he got this part, because it was one of those things where you knew he was going to make her, where that he was going to be irregular, and then he stopped appearing as much, and then all of a sudden they had to rush him out of the show, and I'm like, oh, okay. So when I saw him, I'm like, oh, so this is where he ended up. But yes, he is gorgeous. And but so I do understand the appeal of Jeremiah, and I understand everything you said, and I agree with everything you said. But at one point, I actually thought Jeremiah and Stephen were gonna hook up because they had great chemistry. And at first, initially in the first couple of episodes, tell me they didn't seem a little too touchy feely, and you thought, oh, so those two, that's the love connection. Like, that's what I thought.
I never saw that, but okay.
I mean, if you were to go back and watch it, because at first I'm like,
No, so being around teenagers, like their vibe was more on what I currently see now, on young boys being more like touchy feely and being more willing to show like their emotions and their dedication to their friends. Like that's the vibe that I got. Like on, I mean, and granted, never got the vibe. I did not realize that he was an equal opportunity person until it was actually stated. And I was like, wait, they really close at that party. And then when he made the statement, basically he's an equal opportunity. And I was just like, oh,
no, I got that.
dang.
Like, I got the feeling, because like Jeremiah was a natural flirt, and they said that, and he basically flirted with anything with legs, right? So he even had this flirty thing with Steven, and it was just one scene in the beginning where it was like, oh, like they had, like, and I kind of knew going into it that the love triangle was coming, but I'm like, oh, he and Steven, like if they want to go that route, like that, so I did pick up on major vibes and chemistry between him and Steven. I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, when he was at the pool, when they first, their first day on the job, um Jeremiah was talking about everybody he hooked up with. He hooked up with the lifeguard, he hooked up with a lady's husband or boyfriend, the other guy in the pool, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it did confirm. And then when he hooked up with Luke, at the kid from the party, so I was just like, okay. um but yeah, so I did understand the appeal between Jeremiah and I hated the fact that they made the love triangle between brothers, though. I hated that. I Conrad was an asshole. I can't disagree with you on that. Um, he carried a lot on his shoulders, not excusing why he behaved necessarily in all the ways that he behaved, but he carried, really seemed to notice or appreciate it. And I think his mom said it best when at the end, when they found out that she was sick, and she said, I should have known that you knew. I just didn't want to accept it. And so I think he felt the pressure to always be that perfect son, like play football for his dad. Um, to when Belly got drunk and his dad blamed him. How could you let her do that? And he was like, dude, how was I supposed to know she was drinking that much? And he just made it seem like it was his job to just know everything. So I kind of get that. So I understand some of the ways why he was such a broody asshole. Um, then I think when he realized that he really liked her, he kind of turned into that kid who, in the sandbox, who would push down the girl that he liked. Like when he said, Your hair, when you wear your hair like this, you look like such a kid," or just some of the shit he would say. And I'm like, God, you were such an ass. Um, you know, and I agree with you. I also think that where I said the connection from the transition to between her and Jeremy, or Jeremy's feelings for her, could have been a
Jeremiah, stop calling him
Jeremiah,
Jeremy like Taylor did.
like Taylor did, yeah. Um, the connection between him and Jeremiah, where they should, I said they should have shown a stronger transition of Jeremiah's feelings, like true feelings, like that true aha moment, rather than it just being that crazy, I'm gonna blow you guys up with firecracker moment. Um, and trying to turn into what almost seemed like a competition between his brother. Like to me, that was a hard sell. Like I didn't really buy that one. But for me, with Jeremiah, with Conrad, sorry, I agree with you. Um, we were supposed to believe that okay, the, like I didn't see anything in present day that really made Jeremiah in game. I mean, gosh, Conrad in game. He was an asshole, and it seemed like she was just hanging on to the fact that he was her first love, and that at this point it was I want him because I've always wanted him, even though I see better options. And so I think they tried to sell us too hard on that part. And since this is an adaptation and you're adapting your own book, I think it would have been better if we got actual scenes of him. I think the push pull would have been better and more believable if we would have actually seen scenes where Conrad had let himself go. Like that scene where Cameron took her on the bike ride and they had that picnic on the beach, you know, if that would have been her and Conrad, and then Conrad would have pulled back. Um, the day that he was really happy after they had hung out or they'd almost kissed and they kept trying to meet up with each other. If they had actually met up and he had taken her out on the boat and they had that one perfect day, and then he goes back and he realizes his mom is relapsing, that the relapse is coming quicker. And then he kind of, takes Cleveland's advice about you can't be you can't be for someone else until you are for yourself. I like if we would have seen more in the present besides the whole necklace thing, which, you get it, but that was still related to their past. So if we would have seen more of Conrad having that potential in the present, I think it would have sold it better for me. What about you?
No, he was an asshole, and pressure on himself. I didn't buy into it. I didn't buy into the angst that they gave him to try to explain away why he was who he was. I didn't see the chemistry of them. I did not see the chemistry of them. And you know what? Let me rephrase that. Maybe you are right, because maybe if I had seen actual fun moments besides the last episode where you saw like he thought she was cute and adorable, then maybe I would have given him more of a chance. He never would have beaten Jeremiah, but I'd have given him more of a chance, because I think that, like, you didn't see it, but I saw the slow progression. I think it was more shown in the show of jealousy when it came to Jeremiah. When you knew that he really fell for her was when he reacted with jealousy. And the looks that he would give her, even when he said that he liked Cameron, it was still little glances and looks that he would give her when she wasn't noticing him. And so that's the reason why I was just like, I was on team Jeremiah, because I saw the little glances and the little things that showed that he was all about her. And, rather than trying to like play with other people, he was really all about her. And with Conrad, I felt it was fake. Like, I also felt that what she said, Belly said a great thing when she said she got to the point where she realized that he just loved the fact that she loved him. And so when she stopped putting her whole world around him, all of a sudden he wants to change his tune. And she saw it. But because of the feeling she had of first love, which is so hard to let go, human beings, we know it. It's so hard to let go. Ultimately, she couldn't let go. So she's willing to throw everybody to the side just to get him. And he knows that. He knows at the end of the day that he's her number one. And I think that he took that to his advantage, even after you found out that your brother liked her and had already made moves on her and they were already something. Even after you found that out, your whole focus was on the fact that she was no longer all about you. I thought he was very selfish in that, And she saw that, but once again, she just couldn't walk away from the first love thing. So I was not on Conrad's side. I honestly couldn't see his assholery ways. I understand that you were going through something because your mom was sick and everything like that. But I just couldn't see it. I couldn't get over the fact of like, you were angsty when you didn't necessarily have to be. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of the reasons I don't want to read the book. Like just in case you haven't noticed, I haven't decided. I haven't picked a team, Jelly or Cobelli. I understand the appeal of both of them. I just, like I said, I there were times when I was full on Team Jeremiah, and I just wish that they would have made his his interest in her more obvious than from the moment that he saw her and his brother together. Because to me, because everyone knew that Conrad was her number one. Even he knew Conrad was her first choice, her crush. So what you said about Conrad could actually be taken and turned around to Jeremiah. That's why I said it seemed more like a competition thing, like a winning thing, like between him and her. Even though I'm sure we're supposed to get that it wasn't, that's just how it came across to me. And for so many reasons, he was the better choice, especially from just the how easy and natural it was between them. Um, so I wish they would have done a better job with making that transition more clear and making it more obvious, or or doing or putting those breadcrumbs there a little bit, and moving them firmly, things to happen to move them firmly out of the friend zone. Because when it does happen, it also seemed like from her point, you always got the feeling that she was settling for Jeremiah because she thought, or she realized she couldn't have Conrad, which was unfair to him and her. Because I think, and that's kind of also part of the reason why I hate that they were brothers, even from the original book, is because it makes it so messy. And it pays homage to, they kind of paid homage to, I guess, the trope or the idea of where it came from, which was one of my favorite movies. I'm a huge Audrey Hepburn fan. I'm not even going to go out of my way to ask if you've ever seen this movie, but Sabrina, the movie that they watched in the drive-through, Sabrina, in the movie, Audrey Hepburn plays Sabrina, and initially she's engaged to the younger brother, who's fun, who's more like Jeremiah, fun, free, loving. And then she ends up really falling head over heels in love with the curmudgeon of a brother. And I forgot, was it Humphrey Bogart who played? Gosh, I can't remember who played the curmudgeon of a brother in the original Sabrina, but yeah, so I was like, oh, that's cute where they kind of played off of that. So I guess this was her Sabrina moment. Have you ever seen Sabrina?
No, I'm not an Audrey Hepburn fan.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That was almost like a shot through the heart. That almost hit me deep. I'm sure you've said other things that have cut me deep, but today that's the thing that's cut me deep that you said. Um, but yeah, so I just, and I really wish that we would have seen something, like I said, something that in present day that would have given us this whole, because I'm with you. This, I know we're supposed to root for Conrad or something. I don't know. I don't know that he's in game either. I get that he's first love, and by the end of the series, you kind of get that he's in game. And they said in the book they left it more ambiguous. That you didn't know which brother she ended up with. Um, so at the end of the series, I still didn't see anything that made me think that he was in game. I don't want the back and forth between the brothers. I think honestly that they should introduce someone who truly, truly comes along and kind of takes her interest from Conrad. Someone who is who either makes him get his shit together, or just makes her realize that, hey, sometimes as hard as it is, you got to let go of that first love. So I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about them both. Um, so did you have any other characters that you liked? Or what was one of your favorite episodes? You said one of your episodes or things that kind of just got you to drop everything and pay attention. Like, yeah.
I like the episode where although okay, so my favorite character was Jeremiah. Because he was carefree and he was a typical teenage boy. Very, very popular, very cute. All the girls wanted him. But he also like had a line that he drew, and he, when they say like he refused to be an escort for the debutante ball, like just absolutely refused. And even though the mom had forced Conrad to do it, the year before, she knew she couldn't force Jeremiah to do it if he didn't want to, right? Because he kind of like, danced to his own beat in a lot of ways. I liked every single time that he interrupted the debutante practice.
Yes.
Those were
And
like
how he flirted with Paige.
like those are some of the cutest scenes when like first when he walked her to where the luncheon the tea was supposed to be, and the fact that the person who was in charge of it, I forgot what her name was, the one who was in
Paige.
Paige, she knew him, and how she would always smile. It made me think that him and Paige had something going on at some point.
I
um,
know, right?
because like the vibe I got was she just found him to be so adorable, annoying, but just so adorable that she would forgive him of anything. So that means that and that's why I loved him so much, because you knew his personality was so great that even when he did something that you'd be like, and you want to like just yell his name out, all you can do is just shake your head and smile, because that was Jeremiah. And that's the reason why I fell for him so much, and I cheered for him so much on basically getting the girl. That's where my focus was, rather than, his brother. So like every single one of those scenes, I really loved. Another character that I grew to understand and to like and to understood what their role was Taylor. Um, Taylor was that best friend who'd always been a star, like Belly said. She was always a side character. Taylor was always the main character. But I kind of got that Belly and Taylor was a younger version of Susanna and Laurel. Because Laurel she had a very strict mindset on a lot of things. She could be very judgmental, but also, Susanna helped her to like really be laid back, and so she would do some crazy things. And she's probably used to it now as an adult, but you knew like when they first met, it was Susanna kind of getting her to do certain things that she never would have thought to do. And so I look at Taylor and Belly the same way, on their complete opposites, and they're going to grow like they're teenagers. So Taylor, like, she's the popular girl. She wants to be the star of everything because that's where she's always been. And seeing Belly like glow up, she encouraged her until she realized that maybe she wasn't the most important friend or her best friend after the summer, because her mindset really changed when she saw the connection that Belly had to the other girls that are part of the debutante, and she was talking it up so much, and she was like, "That's not our thing. Like, why are you doing it?" And so I like Taylor. I think that Taylor served a purpose. I think that ultimately I like the fact that when she called and she was like, "I'm not mad, like we good," and they just kind of like started talking again. I was like, that's friendship. On, as you're growing and learning who you are, you're gonna butt heads, especially when you're complete opposites, which they were. And then also, unpopular opinion, I like Taylor and Steven. I honestly thought Steven liked Taylor. And there was going to be something there. And then he was all about Shayla. And I'm just like, dude, you do realize this is a summer romance, and you will be nothing once you go back home. But yeah, but Taylor definitely grew on me.
I agree. Taylor, like I said, Taylor is a fungus. In the beginning, I did not like Taylor, especially when she called her friend out about the glow up. And you did get everything you said about her was true. You did get the fact that she'd always been the star, and she was jealous that her friend was now the star of her own show. And I appreciate, like you said, she grows on you, and I appreciate her purpose. That they were able to work it out, but she still was not my favorite character. Now, I will agree with you. I did think Steven and Taylor were better than Steven and Shayla, and I was actually hoping, once I got out of the mindset that Steven and Jeremiah weren't going to happen, which was like that first, like I said, just briefly in that first episode or that first couple episodes. But I honestly was rooting for Steven and Taylor. I did like her more in that purpose than as Belly's best friend. So like I said, it's an adaptation. It's not too late to kind of make that happen, especially as it progresses. I agree. I Don't get me wrong. I love Jeremiah. He was one of my favorite characters. I loved him as a character. I just don't know if he was a great love interest for Belly. I don't know. But I do love him. And I agree with everything you said about him interrupting the debutante practices. Those were some of the best scenes. And he's just so carefree and so fun and true to himself. And you can also see that, that they when they make characters like that, sometimes they try to make them seem like they were shallow. But you could see when he was really concerned, when he started when he started to figure out something may have been wrong with his mom, how that weighed on him. So he wasn't just that shallow playboy who didn't have feelings, or who didn't care about people. So I love that they also gave him more depth. One of my favorite characters was Nicole. I loved Nicole. At first, you thought she was going to be that bitchy girlfriend who was just, who was just out to destroy Belly, but she actually turned out to be a really good friend, and I like that, and a good Deb sister who helped her with the debutante scene. And even though they had that moment when she saw that text, where she had that typical response and she left, she did give the clothes back, so I have to give her that. That was a true genuine moment. But she had one of the best lines of the whole series to me when she called Conrad out on his shit. And she said, and he was like, I didn't mean to hurt. She goes, you didn't hurt me, you wasted my time, there's a difference. Like, I loved her. Like, she was a girl who knew her worth, not just a girl who knew her worth, but a black girl who knew her worth, and she suffered no fools. Like, that was the best line to me. I was like, you tell them, like, you didn't hurt me, you wasted my time. There is a difference. And so, yeah, I love Nicole. And even, at the end where her and Belly made up, and she could kind of see, like, okay, I get it. And she just told her, that first love it's hard to let go. So I appreciated Nicole. She was also one of my favorite characters. Um, all right, so it's already been confirmed that it is coming back for a second season, which I think is going to be part of, based on the second book. But what are some things that you would hope to see in a second? Well, would you watch a second season? Let me ask you that first. Would you watch season two?
In passing, I'm not like, when I hear the second season's premiering, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'll watch it when I have time. And it's gonna take me a minute to get through the season. So yeah, it's not necessarily the excitement. And part of it is because of the direction I know they're going to ultimately take. And because I know the direction that they're ultimately going to take, and I don't like that direction, I'm not going to be like excited to see the second season.
Okay. I I would like to see the second season, because, like I said, I'm not going to read the books, because I think the books would turn me off of the series itself. And again, a lot of my favorite things about the series are things that are not focused on in the books, or that we only get a one-sided point of view on from the books, and that's Belly's point of view. And I like that all the characters here are fully realized, and they have their own space to breathe and grow, and their own stories to tell. So I think that would be the one thing that turned me off the books. In the second season, I would like to see like life outside of the beach, like what is going to be like helping Susanna through her illness. What happens? You know, it's Conrad and Steven. Are they going to take a gap year? Where do they actually end up? How is it going to progress with Conrad and Belly? Are we going to actually see them have some sort of real relationship and not just all this dramatic angst? And I think that is one thing that YA novelists or teen shows get wrong, is that you want to see just all of this angst. And you get that just naturally, but you also want to see what attracts the people. You also want to see the relationship when it's not so angst written, so drama filled. So if it's just going to be more of Conrad being an asshole, then no, I absolutely would not want to see that or them being together. And I know from what I've read or seen excerpts or part of the second book, he is still an asshole. So Jenny Han, I hope it's your series. You can do it. It's your book series. You're adapting it. You're writing it. You can do whatever you want. I hope she lightens up on that some. Um, and like I said, maybe give Belly a new interest who isn't um, Jeremiah or Conrad, to just kind of get her away from that first love and transition back to being friends. But I would also like to see Jeremiah find his person. And if it is actually Belly, then let it be Belly and let her really see that he is the one and put Conrad where he goes, to that friend zone. And I think that was also part of my hesitation about them being together, is because I didn't want her. He deserves more than to be second choice, because he is that great and that great of a character, and he doesn't deserve to be anyone's second choice, even Belly's, especially not to his asshole brother. So those are some of the things I would like to see. All right. Um, Now, how would you rate it?
Summer I Turned Pretty, I am going to give a 3.25. Which based on the beginning of the series, it wouldn't have gotten, but I think that the development of certain characters, and then also the very realism of being a teenager, like them getting drunk, or her learning how to drive, and just the relationship aspects of it, because this was a teenage show. I ultimately I enjoyed it. I thought it was very genuine in a lot of ways on how teenagers typically are. So 3.25 is what I give Summer I Turned Pretty.
Hmm. I just went a little bit higher than you. I gave it a 3.5, and I agree. The realism. Um, I love the characters. I love the relationships. I love the co-starring characters, or the secondary characters. So it was overall a good show. It's better than I thought it was going to be. I'm apparently a little bit more excited than a second season for a second season than you are. But yeah, I hope that they do more than just show Conrad as the asshole and Belly putting up with him being an asshole. Um, that trope is played out to me. Especially in this age of women, we deserve better. Young girls deserve better, than trying to change that asshole. Okay, so anything else? Any final words on the Summer I Turned Pretty?
No.
No? Okay. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. Dang, that list is growing. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop it, pop, pop, pop. Thank you, as always, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss the long awaited, much anticipated Thor Love and Thunder. I'm so excited. I'm excited to see this one. I really am. The latest entry in the MCU. Are you excited?
Not really, but it's Marvel, so I'll be there.
I'm excited. Thor is one of those series that has gotten better, definitely better as it's progressed. So yeah. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.